Welcome to True Echo, where powerful, true-to-life stories echo across generations. Today's story begins on the streets of Washington, D.C., where an ordinary walk home turns into a national headline. An 18-year-old black girl, a top student and CIA intern, is stopped by two officers who accuse her of a crime she didn't commit. What happens next is a stunning unraveling of truth, justice, and an unexpected twist in the courtroom that leaves everyone in shock. Stay with us, because this story is one you'll never forget. The late afternoon sun draped the streets of Washington, D.C., in long, golden shadows. Omani Carter adjusted her backpack and kept her pace steady, her sneakers tapping quietly along the sidewalk. The weight of the acceptance letter waiting for her at home, the one from Howard University with the words, "Full Scholarship," emblazoned across the top, made her heart flutter with excitement and pride. She had worked for this. Every hour in the library, every late night writing essays or practicing for debate tournaments, had led to this moment. She had just passed Lincoln Middle School, only 4 blocks from her apartment, when she heard it. "Hey! You! Stop right there!" The voice was sharp, loud, official. It stabbed into her thoughts like a cold knife. She turned slowly, cautiously. 2 white police officers were advancing from their cruiser. One was older, his red face beaded with sweat, his nameplate reading O'Donnell. The other, lean and tense, had the kind of jawline that looked like it had never bent once in its life. "Marston. You match the description," O'Donnell said, his hand already near his holster. Omani raised both hands instinctively. "I'm just going home," she said, voice trembling. I live right around the corner. Hands where I can see them." Marston barked, already circling her like a predator closing in. She didn't resist. She didn't move. Her mind raced with every lesson her mother had drilled into her: stay calm. Be polite. Don't argue. Don't die. Without another word, O'Donnell grabbed her arm and twisted it behind her back, shoving her forward roughly. The cuffs bit into her wrists. Pain shot up her arm. "I didn't do anything," she cried out, barely audible over her own pounding heart. "Yeah." Marston sneered, digging through her backpack. "Then what's this?" He pulled out a slim black pouch tucked deep beneath her books. Inside was her CIA internship badge, small, plastic, and very, very real. He scoffed. "Nice try." "It's real," she whispered. "I got accepted into the Langley High Scholars Program. It's for underrepresented." "Shut it," O'Donnell snapped. He pocketed the badge like it was a joke, then pushed her toward the back seat of the cruiser. Omani caught sight of a woman across the street raising her phone to record, but no one stepped in. Not a single soul said anything. And just like that, the girl who had earned her way into one of the most elite federal internship programs in the country became a suspect. They didn't even ask her name. As the cruiser pulled away, her reflection in the glass window stared back at her, eyes wide, mouth trembling. The sun set on D.C., and with it, Omani's life as she knew it faded into shadows. The precinct was a world away from the classrooms and debate stages where Omani had earned her name. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, washing everything in a sickly hue. The holding room was cold, brutally so, the metal bench colder. She sat stiffly, the cuffs still tight around her wrists, the pain constant but not worse than the sting of humiliation. No one had offered her water. No one had read her rights. No one had believed her. Time bled into itself, like ink in water. Was it 1 hour? 2? 5? She didn't know. Her stomach growled in protest, but no one came. The occasional glance from an officer passing by was either indifferent or mocking. Then footsteps. Heavy, unhurried. Officer O'Donnell opened the door with the same smirk he had worn while slapping cuffs on her. "Get up," he said. Omani did, her legs wobbling slightly. He led her down a narrow hallway to a small, windowless interrogation room. Inside, Officer Marston sat at a battered metal table. A single chair faced him. "Sit," he said. Omani obeyed. "You know why you're here?" Marston began, opening a slim file in front of him. "I didn't do anything," Omani said, her voice hoarse. Marston flipped a page. Convenience store was robbed. Guy says a girl in a black hoodie ran from the scene. You were in the area. That's enough. I was at school, Omani said quickly. Ask my teachers, classmates, even the bus driver. I never. That's not what the witness says, O'Donnell interrupted, arms crossed, leaning against the wall like a man watching a scripted play. She stared at them, heart racing, throat dry. My badge is real, she said. I work with the CIA. It's a federal program. Marston snorted. Sure you do. You got a secret mission too, Agent Carter. O'Donnell pushed off the wall and leaned over her. We've seen it all. Smart girls like you, thinking you're too good for consequences. Her voice shook but didn't break. I want to call my mother. Marston's jaw tightened. Later. When we're done. It was hours more before that call came. A plainclothes officer named Morgan, older, black, and solemn, finally took off the cuffs and pointed to a rusted payphone on the wall. One call, she said. Omani's fingers trembled as she dialed. The line rang once. Twice. Her mother's voice came on the third. Hello. Mama. Her voice cracked. They arrested me. A sharp breath on the other end. Then, steadier than she expected, where are you? The precinct. I didn't do anything, she whispered. They think I robbed someone. I'm on my way, Dana Carter said, her voice already moving like fire. When the call ended, Omani felt the first tears burn down her cheeks. She had held them back for hours. But now, the dam cracked. She wiped them away quickly, refusing to let them fall again. The clatter of hard-soled shoes echoed down the hallway, and Omani sat upright on the bench as the door swung open. Her lawyer, Mr. Klein, entered first, tall, thin, with wire-rimmed glasses and a briefcase that seemed almost too heavy for his slight frame. His navy blazer was creased, hair tousled from sleep, but his eyes were laser-focused. Behind him came Dana Carter, Omani's mother, her face a storm of worry and fury, braided hair coming undone. Mama, Omani whispered, standing before an officer barked at her to sit. Dana moved instinctively toward her daughter but stopped at the warning. Her eyes never left Omani's face. Hold on, baby, she said, her voice strained. We're going to fix this. Mr. Klein was all business. I need a moment with my client, he told the guard. The officer rolled his eyes. 5 minutes. Klein pulled out a chair, sat across from Omani, and leaned forward, dropping his voice to a whisper. Listen closely. Say nothing else to the police. Nothing without me in the room. Understand? Omani nodded. They're charging you based on a so-called eyewitness and claiming your badge is fake, he continued. It's not, Omani said quickly, voice cracking. It's real. CIA outreach. I've got paperwork at home. Letters. I believe you, Klein said. But we'll need airtight proof. I'm filing for an emergency hearing, but they might keep you overnight. Maybe longer. Dana couldn't hold back anymore. You can't leave her here like she's a criminal. She's a kid. She's 18, the guard said dryly from the doorway. Klein sighed. Mrs. Carter, I'll be working all night. We'll need statements from her school, her coach, the program lead at the CIA. Anything that puts her exactly where she says she was. I was at school, Omani said again, firmer this time. All day. Debate practice after. I didn't even walk past the store they mentioned. Good, Klein nodded. We'll prove it. He gave her shoulder a small squeeze before rising. Dana pressed her palm against the glass partition separating them, her fingers trembling. Omani pressed hers up too, the closest they could get to a hug. "I love you," Dana mouthed. "I love you too," Omani whispered, tears brimming again. And then they were gone, swallowed by the precinct doors. Omani sat back down on the hard bench, alone once more. That night, Detective Morgan returned, not as a threat, but as a quiet presence. She brought a plastic bottle of water and a pack of stale crackers, sliding them through the slot in the door. Omani took them without a word. She didn't trust her voice. Morgan watched her for a moment before speaking. "You hold on, all right? You're not the first this happened to. But maybe you'll be the last." She left before Omani could respond. The hours crawled. At some point, sleep took her like a thief, shallow, restless, broken by nightmares of metal bars and courtroom silence. The next morning came with gray skies and a van ride to the courthouse. 2 other women sat in the back with her, neither speaking, both staring straight ahead like they'd seen too much. The van clanked and rumbled over potholes, passing familiar streets that now looked like memories from another life. As they pulled up to the courthouse steps, Omani caught sight of them, a cluster of reporters with cameras flashing, already waiting. Her heart pounded. How had it reached the media so fast? Inside, the courthouse smelled like wood polish and stress. She was led down a hallway and into a holding room where Klein waited, flipping through a thick stack of papers. "You ready?" he asked. She nodded. The courtroom buzzed with quiet tension as they entered. Reporters filled the gallery. Dana sat in the front row, hands clasped tightly in her lap. A tall woman with a stern face and sleek bun sat across the aisle, the assistant district attorney, Branson. Judge Crawford, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, entered and took her place at the bench. Everyone rose, then sat. The charges were read aloud. Suspicion of robbery. Obstruction. Possession of falsified government ID. Omani kept her face still. Her body was trembling, but her voice was clear. "Not guilty." The words, "not guilty," barely left Omani's lips before the assistant district attorney, Ms. Branson, rose from her seat like a hawk spotting prey. "Your Honor," she began, voice sharp and confident, "the state has reason to believe that Miss Carter was involved in the robbery of a Jefferson Avenue convenience store. She was located in the immediate area, matched the eyewitness description, and was found carrying what appears to be a forged federal identification badge." Omani sat still, shoulders squared. Her fingernails dug into her palms beneath the table, but her face didn't twitch. Mr. Klein stood, straightening his jacket before speaking. "Your Honor, the defense will present documentation confirming that the badge in question is authentic. Miss Carter is enrolled in a government-sanctioned internship program. Additionally, we have multiple witnesses prepared to testify that she was at school during the time of the alleged crime. We respectfully request dismissal on grounds of insufficient evidence." Judge Crawford held up a hand. "I will hear both sides." Branson turned to the witness box and called the first to the stand, Officer O'Donnell. He approached with the same smug confidence he wore the night he shoved Omani into the back of his cruiser. Sworn in, he sat back, thick hands folded across his stomach. "Tell us what happened," Branson said. O'Donnell recited his account with cold precision. "Received a call about a robbery in progress. Suspect was described as a young black female, black hoodie, possibly fleeing on foot. We observed Miss Carter walking 2 blocks from the location and engaged. She appeared nervous. When questioned, she became evasive. Her ID was unconvincing. And did she resist?" "No," O'Donnell admitted, reluctantly. "But she was suspicious. Twitchy. Could have bolted." "Thank you, officer." Klein rose, slow and deliberate. "Officer O'Donnell," he began, flipping open a folder, "you claim Miss Carter looked like she might run, correct?" "Yes. And yet, in your official report, you stated she complied with all commands. I did. So, did she try to flee, or did she comply? She looked like she was going to, O'Donnell said. You can tell. Klein nodded slowly. So based on her race, clothing, and your gut feeling, you assumed guilt. Objection, Branson snapped. Sustained, Judge Crawford said, but her gaze narrowed slightly on O'Donnell. Klein continued. No further questions. The second witness was the so-called eyewitness, a man named Travis Brown. Nervous, with a shifting gaze and sweat-darkened shirt collar, he fidgeted as he was sworn in. I saw her, he said, not meeting anyone's eyes. Running from the store. Black hoodie, same build. Branson nodded approvingly. And you're certain it was Miss Carter? Yes. Klein stood. Mr. Brown, where were you coming from that day? Work. Goodwin's garage. And what day was this? Monday. Klein raised an eyebrow. Interesting. According to this, he held up a document, Goodwin's garage is closed on Mondays. So, were you working a private job? Visiting someone? Brown blinked. I must have gotten the days mixed up. Or, Klein said gently, you weren't there at all. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Judge Crawford banged her gavel. Silence. No further questions, Klein said. Branson looked rattled. She shuffled her papers with more force than necessary before announcing, the state rests. Klein stood once more. Your Honor, the defense would like to present a series of sworn statements confirming Miss Carter's presence at school from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the day in question. These include testimony from 3 teachers, a debate coach, and the school bus driver. Judge Crawford nodded. Submit them into the record. And finally, Klein continued, we request to call Miss Harrington, Regional Director of the High Scholars Federal Internship Program. A quiet hush fell as the courtroom doors opened and a tall black woman in a navy suit entered. She moved with understated authority, her badge clipped discreetly at her hip. She took the oath, then sat. Miss Harrington, Klein asked, can you confirm that Omani Carter is a registered intern in your program? Yes. She was selected after a rigorous review process and issued an official CIA intern badge. Is this, he held up Omani's badge, authentic? Yes. Branson stood. And what exactly does this internship entail? I cannot provide details due to security classifications, Harrington said calmly. But the badge is real. And we take falsification very seriously. If there were any doubts about Miss Carter's credentials, she would not be in our system. That silenced the room. Judge Crawford leaned forward. Thank you. That will be all. She looked over the documents. Then at Omani. Then at the court. In light of the questionable eyewitness testimony, the conflicting police report, the confirmed alibi, and the validation of Miss Carter's federal affiliation, she said, voice clear and firm, this court finds insufficient evidence to proceed. Case dismissed. The gavel slammed down. The room erupted into stunned silence. Omani stared forward, frozen. Mr. Klein touched her arm gently. It's over. Dana sobbed softly from the front row, hands over her mouth. Reporters began scribbling, murmurs filled the room. But Omani? She rose slowly. Her eyes found Officers O'Donnell and Marston, both standing in the back now, their faces tight with anger. She didn't look away. She walked out of the courtroom, her head held high, into the sunlight that bathed the courthouse steps in gold. And the whole world was watching. The flashbulbs exploded like silent fireworks the moment Omani stepped out of the courthouse doors. Reporters pushed forward, microphones extended, voices shouting questions she didn't have the strength or obligation to answer. Mr. Klein shielded her as best he could, and Dana flanked her daughter's other side, one hand resting protectively on Omani's back. Was the badge real, Omani? Are you suing the department? Did the officers apologize? Was this racially motivated? She didn't answer any of them. Each step down the courthouse stairs felt heavier than the last, but she never looked back. The weight of the trial, the holding cell, the humiliation, it pressed on her shoulders, but it didn't break her. Inside, she was still the same girl who had dreamed of studying international policy, who had spent years sharpening her mind, rising at 5 a.m. to read case studies, who had walked into a room and stunned career agents with her insight. At home, Dana tucked her into the kitchen like she was 6 years old again, wrapping her in a fleece blanket, pouring her a cup of chamomile tea. The house smelled like lemon disinfectant and lavender hand lotion, familiar, comforting. The moment her mother left the room, Omani finally let her shoulders drop. The mug trembled slightly in her hands. "I didn't cry in court," she whispered. Dana returned and kneeled beside her. "Because you're strong." "I don't want to be strong all the time," she said. "I just wanted to go to school. I just wanted to be enough." "You were always enough." They sat in silence, holding hands, letting the trauma breathe in the safety of their kitchen. But even in that peace, Omani knew something had shifted. She hadn't just been detained. She hadn't just been accused. She'd been silenced. Now it was her turn to speak. In the days that followed, Omani returned to school briefly to finish final exams. Teachers welcomed her back with quiet nods and words of encouragement, but her classmates offered a mixed reception. Some couldn't meet her eyes. Others whispered apologies in the hallway. A few avoided her completely. Only her debate coach, Mr. Lyons, said what she needed to hear. "They tried to strip your dignity. You kept it." That night, back at home, Mr. Klein called a meeting. Dana sat beside Omani in his cramped office. The old fan buzzed overhead, and paperwork cluttered every corner of the room. "We're filing a formal complaint," Klein began. "And a civil rights lawsuit. We now have confirmation that this wasn't just a mistake, it was part of a pattern." Detective Morgan entered quietly, dressed in plain clothes. Her presence brought a weight of legitimacy and calm. "I started looking," she said. "And I found them, 2 more young men and a mother. Same precinct. Same tactics. Falsified statements, baseless stops, intimidation." She placed a thick folder on the desk. Inside, witness accounts, officer reports, timestamps that didn't match, surveillance clips that contradicted official stories. "They're going to push back," Klein warned. "The union will get involved. The department will circle wagons." "I'm not afraid," Omani said softly, but clearly. Klein gave a small, respectful nod. "We'll build it together. Piece by piece." Outside, a summer storm began to brew, wind rattling the old windowpanes. But inside that tiny office, Omani felt something else stirring, not fear, not anger. Conviction. It began quietly. She returned to her routine, but behind the scenes, the fire grew. Her name spread, first through local news, then national outlets. Headlines carried phrases like, "CIA intern wrongfully accused, teen fights back, justice for Omani Carter." Some praised her. Some questioned her motives. She stayed silent, letting the facts speak. Then, one day in July, Mr. Klein called again. "Travis Brown came forward," he said. "He confessed. Swore under oath. O'Donnell and Marston paid him to lie." The words hit Omani like a thunderclap. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. "They're being investigated. Internal Affairs opened a case this morning. It's real now, Omani." And just like that, the wall that had protected 2 corrupt officers for years began to crumble. The fallout was swift, like a dam breaking under quiet pressure. Once Travis Brown's confession became public, the media lit up with outrage. National anchors replayed courtroom footage, dissected the interrogation tactics, and placed Omani's school photo beside her CIA badge on primetime screens. What had once been a local injustice became a national reckoning. Officer Marston was suspended first. Then O'Donnell. Internal affairs moved in like a storm, combing through years of complaints, traffic stop data, arrest logs, and what they found told a story louder than any protest sign ever could. Omani, meanwhile, was adjusting to a new reality. Her phone buzzed constantly. Reporters, activists, even government representatives wanted to speak with her. Her email inbox overflowed with college students, parents, civil rights groups. Some offered support. Others told their own stories. It was overwhelming, yet grounding. "I never meant to be a symbol," she told Dana one night as they sat on the back porch, the summer air thick with humidity. "I just wanted to prove I didn't do it." "You didn't choose this," Dana said softly, "but you're standing in it with grace." That same week, the city settled her lawsuit. The number was not disclosed publicly, but it was enough to pay for her entire college education and provide for her family for years. More importantly, the city issued a formal apology, rare and powerful. In front of news cameras, the mayor addressed the mistake. "We failed Miss Carter. And we will not let this happen again." It wasn't perfect justice. But it was real. With the settlement came oversight reforms, body camera reviews, a third-party accountability board, and diversity training measures within the department. It was a start, not a solution, but a foot in the door. On a quiet Sunday, Miss Harrington from the CIA reached out again. Her tone was calm as always, her message clear. "You handled this with integrity. We're proud of you. Keep your focus. There's a place for you here, if you still want it." Omani replied without hesitation. "Yes, ma'am." August arrived with the smell of fresh notebooks and new beginnings. Howard University's campus was buzzing. Omani moved into her dorm early, an old brick building with creaky floors and light that poured through the tall windows like hope itself. She unpacked slowly. Her Howard letter. A small stack of framed photos. Her badge, now laminated, official, and tucked inside her backpack, not for show, but as a quiet promise to herself. That first morning, she stood in the middle of the quad and let the sunlight touch her face. Students passed around her, some unaware of who she was, others nodding with respect. One girl whispered, "That's her," but Omani didn't flinch. She wasn't running from her past. She was building from it. Later that day, an unexpected email pinged her inbox. Subject line, "Testimony requested, Police Oversight Board." They wanted her to speak. Not just about her story, but about the system that allowed it. She read it twice. Then a third time. She closed the laptop and stared out the window. For the first time in a long time, she felt steady. "I'll do it," she whispered to herself. Not out of revenge. Not out of anger. But because someone had to say the words, and now the world was ready to listen. The room was smaller than she imagined, a city council chamber converted into a hearing space for the Civilian Oversight Board. Rows of fold-out chairs. A modest podium. A few TV cameras quietly recording in the back. No courtroom gavel. No robes. Just people, some hopeful, some tired, and a few wearing uniforms with tight jaws and crossed arms. Omani stood at the front, a microphone adjusted to her height, her palms flat on the wood. She wore a gray blazer, a simple blouse, and a pin on her lapel, not the CIA badge, but a small silver dove her mother gave her that morning. She glanced down at her notes, then up again. "My name is Omani Carter. I'm 18 years old. I'm a student at Howard University. And I was arrested walking home from school, accused of a crime I didn't commit, and humiliated in front of my community for carrying a badge I earned." She paused. The silence in the room wrapped around her like armor. "I was treated like a threat, not because of what I did, but because of what I looked like. I was handcuffed, denied a phone call, interrogated like a criminal, and I was told, over and over, that I was lying about who I was. She looked directly at the officers seated in the back. She didn't flinch. The system didn't just fail me. It tried to erase me. But I'm still here. And I won't let my silence become part of someone else's story. A beat. I'm asking you to remember my name, not because I want revenge, or pity, or headlines. But because next time, it might be a kid without a lawyer. Without a badge. Without a camera. Someone you'll never hear about. When she finished, the room stayed still for a few seconds too long. Then the first hand began to clap. Then another. And another. Until even some in uniform couldn't help but join in. Detective Morgan, seated near the front, nodded slowly. Dana, in the second row, had tears in her eyes, but a smile on her face. That night, back in her dorm, Omani sat at her desk writing thank you emails to the teachers and students who had backed her when the world wouldn't. She paused halfway through one, staring at the screen. She didn't feel like the girl in the interrogation room anymore. She wasn't just surviving. She was leading. Her phone buzzed with a new message, Miss Harrington again. Excellent testimony. Keep your schedule flexible, the agency's interested in briefing you for additional summer projects. Omani smiled. The road ahead would be hard. People would still judge her. The system still needed work. But the moment she walked into that courtroom and stood her ground, the moment she said, not guilty and meant more than the law ever could, something changed. She was no longer just a victim. She was the echo that would ring in others' ears long after the cameras stopped. Sometimes, it takes one voice in a quiet room to make the walls shake. Omani Carter didn't just survive a system stacked against her, she exposed it, challenged it, and helped change it. Her story reminds us that injustice thrives in silence, but courage echoes. As her debate coach once told her, they tried to strip your dignity. You kept it. If you were moved by Omani's journey, help us share her voice. Like this video, subscribe to True Echo, and comment below, what would you have done in her shoes? Remember, real change begins when we listen.